Welcome and thank you for joining the SEEDS event today. I am Leon Chapman. I will provide technical support for today's event. If you run into any trouble, please use the chat feature to contact me directly. Please use the thumbs up reaction to let us know that you can hear. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes. Today's event is being recorded. Please note that your microphone was muted by default when you logged in. However, you are encouraged to type comments and questions into the chat. All questions asked will be answered at the end of the event. Live captioning is enabled in Teams. You can click the More Actions button, which is the three dots at the top of the screen, then select Language and Speech. Select Turn on Live Captions, English, and click Confirm. Finally, your feedback is important to us. At the conclusion of today's event, a link to a brief survey will appear. We would love to hear what you think so we can continue to improve and update this series. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker, Ms. Tenisha del Alba Ascencio, Deputy Service Director, Workforce Office of Human Capital Service. Ms. del Alba Ascencio, we are honored to have you here and the floor is yours.
All right, well, awesome. And thank you so much, Leon. Next slide, please. All right, so next slide. That's me. So good afternoon, attendees, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Tenisha de Alba Ascencio, and I will be providing this afternoon seed session. So a little bit about myself. I retired in 2019 after 22 years in the best Air Force in the world, where I served as a medical service corps officer, also known as a hospital administrator. Yes, give it a round of applause, please. Go Air Force, aim high. And in 2019, October, I started my VBA journey as a contractor working in the Office of Strategic Initiatives and Collaboration, formerly known as OSIC, which previously served as VBA's strategic internal consultants and is now known as the Office of Strategic Support and Initiatives, OSI. For a short while, when then I crossed over as a Fed in August of 2020, where I served as a strategist working all things strategic plans, change management, and program management, which leads me to my current role where I started in December of 2021, working within VBA's Office of Human Capital Services under Workforce Planning and Strategic Analysis Division, where I oversee workforce planning and organizational environment teams. Under my purview in workforce planning, it is comprised of workforce planning specialists who are charged with developing VBA's succession plan, strategic workforce plan, and human capital operating plans. So working with all of VBA's business line staff offices in the field, ensuring we have the right talent at the right time when and if a vacancy should occur. I also oversee a new capability within HCS, which is the organizational environment team, comprised of industrial organizational psychologists who work in a non-clinical setting, assessing leaders and employees' behaviors and attitudes towards policies, initiatives being implemented throughout VBA and the effect that it may have on our current and future workforce. So this group of professionals also conduct climate assessments to inform senior leaders of actionable strategies to improve organizational efficiencies and performance. So that is a lot about me. I also want to welcome our program manager extraordinaire for SEEDS, Ms. Nafi Abdullahi, and she will be monitoring the chat and monitoring for us today as well. So thank you in advance, Nafi. Next slide, please. Okay, so at the end of this course, in our time today, I want you all to be able to recognize the legacy manager mindset and adopt a human-centered approach to leading in a hybrid environment. Throughout today's lesson, I invite you to either journal your thoughts on a separate document or participate in the chat. Let's make this interactive and not death by PowerPoint, please. Next slide. We'll play the video. We'll give it a little bit more. I know it might be some bandwidth possibly, but all right. Thank you so much, Leon. So as you can see in this video, we have to reimagine the way we view work. There's absolutely a culture shift as it relates to the workforce environment, whether in the federal or private sectors, especially as you all are managing multi-generational workforces. How many of you were here during the onset of COVID? One day we were all at our desks told to go home and left our candy jars filled with Snickers because we thought we'd be back in a week or two, only to come back 2 years later. VBA sustained the mission and figured out the how and the why during one of the most unprecedented times in our history. With this in mind, employees are more informed of their workplace flexibility options and becoming more vocal about them. So how are you going to respond? What are we going to do to keep up with the times and sharpen your hybrid leader toolkit? Something to think about as we navigate through today's brief. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we get started, I would like to drop a poll. On the screen, you will see 4 options. Please select the option that best describes your employees' work environments. So take 60 seconds or less to make sure your selection saves. Press submit, then select done to ensure your vote is cast. And Nafi is going to come on screen to discuss the findings with us. All right, Nafi, what do we have here?
So looks like the majority of the staff or the supervisors in this training, their staff is telework, followed by 100% remote, and then virtual comes in that play. So it looks like your audience is for sure predominantly telework.
All right, awesome, awesome. So we do have some 100% remote, but again, in telework settings, a lot of this information will prove to be beneficial as you are navigating that space. And some of you may have a hybrid of the two. So again, thank you so much for sharing, and we will address some of this as we work through the briefing. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we delve into today's agenda, it's important that as leaders, we all need to display transparency, trust, and foster connection when managing employees in a hybrid environment, because these elements are critical to building a cohesive, motivated, and high-performing teams. Please approach today's training in a way that will work best for you and your team. And here are the 3 areas I will delve into to assist with building a thriving hybrid work environment. First up, we'll discuss what a legacy leader mindset entails. Next slide, please. A legacy manager mindset focuses on creating a positive environment that fosters growth and relies on traditional methods aiming to leave a lasting positive legacy. This term typically refers to the perspective and approach that managers adopt when considering their long-term impact on their organization, team, and industry. Scholars often explore this mindset influences decision makings, leadership styles, and organizational culture. Legacy managers tend to prioritize sustainable practices, mentorship, and development of their team members. Research may delve into how this mindset can enhance employee engagement, retention, and overall organizational success. Next slide, please. The legacy manager mindset in a hybrid environment values physical presence and proximity as proxies for productivity, remains skeptical that teleworking employees will be productive. How many of us have heard this before? Essentially, this mindset equates visibility to productivity. So it's an old way of thinking. But again, we have to make sure that we're knowledgeable of the various mindsets that our leaders may have. However, to have thriving, engaged, dispersed teams, everything stems from entrusting managers. In Microsoft's 2022 Work Trend Index report, 87% of individuals said they can be productive working remotely versus only 12% of leaders were fully confident that remote workers remain productive. So I'll ask you, why is this mindset harmful? And you can put your ideas in the chat. Monitoring the chat here. But if you have ideas, feel free to put them in the chat. But this mindset is harmful because it can undermine the culture and morale of your employees. Strict oversight and productivity surveillance cannot coexist with psychologically safe personnel, creative freedom, and autonomy. Yes, and I see makes VA less competitive for sure. Oh, sorry, Nafi. Is it anything else
I'm glad you saw it. Yep.
Okay.
I was going to repeat it.
Okay, perfect. Anything else anybody can think of? Right. No worries. There'll be more time for you to engage. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, I got something in the chat. Demonstrates lack of trust. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's that old way of thinking, like, I can't see you, so that means you might not be working. You might be sitting at home in your Hello Kitty pajamas and just, I don't know, doing all kinds of stuff, but working. All right, so next slide here. To emphasize the previous point, the Department of Veteran Affairs Veterans Experience Office conducted a return to office survey in February of 2024. And this slide depicts the overall responses from VBA employees regarding the question of working from an office or agency work site affects my overall productivity. So if you're looking at this slide, you can see the majority of respondents noted that working from an office had no effect or negatively impacted their overall productivity. So that's definitely a telling sign of the opinions and insights and sentiments from the employees not going into a physical location. And this slide also shows VBA's executives may be ahead of the curve as it relates to hybrid work, as they had similar sentiments as the GS employees. Next slide, please. Next, here's a question to you all to take 60 seconds to note and place your responses in the chat. How do we close the gap between how employees and leaders and executives perceive remote productivity and effectiveness? So what are your thoughts, strategies on how we can close the gap as far as the misconceptions? Trust. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking Nafi's job, but go ahead, Nafi. You're on here.
No, this is your show. You driving it. I'm just making sure in case you don't catch anything. But yes, looks like we have trust and systems of accountability as a comment, communication, Accept and digest all feedback that might be not necessarily be yours. So a lot of agreement. So yeah, communication, you'll see a lot of data, trust. So it looks like we have a sentiment around communication, accountability, trust, communication and measurements by the program. So yeah, a lot of comments surrounding communication and trust.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is spot on. Let's see, we have a couple more coming in here. All right, and I see collaboration and relatability. So you all were right on the money here. So my top response would be open communication, having recurring communication between executives, leaders, and employees to align expectations and perceptions. So sharing those concerns and successes as it relates to hybrid work, data-driven insights. So I think somebody might have mentioned measurements for success. So measuring productivity, project completion rates, timeliness, and then also employee feedback. I'm not sure if I've seen that one, but seeking feedback on the impact of how remote and hybrid work impacts their effectiveness and engagement. So a lot of people will say work-life balance is increased when you consider hybrid work. Leadership trust. I know I definitely seen that in the chat. So you have to afford employees the ability to self-manage, to focus on outcomes and results. In doing so, does not negate your ability to verify. You all have probably heard of the term trust but verify. So ensuring that your employees are empowered to work from home or their designated location, approved location, is definitely something that you want to consider in building that trust. Collaboration tools and training. So encouraging the use of existing technology to collaborate and bridge the gaps. And then finally, addressing biases. So confronting biases such as those of visibility equals productivity. So again, trying to change the hearts and minds of those employees or senior leaders that might have that old way of thinking. So great feedback in the chat there. So next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about human-centered leadership and how it applies to the effective traits for hybrid leaders. Next slide, please. As depicted on the screen, human-centered leadership is an emerging and influential leadership style that puts people first within an organization. It emphasizes deeply understanding employees' needs, actively supporting their professional growth and fulfillment, and co-creating an engaging, psychologically safe and inclusive work environment. According to remote work expert and thought leader Wo Zapar, he says that organizations that will thrive are taking an intentional long-term approach to enabling the freedom, psychological safety, and flexibility that cultivates strong bonds, even from afar. So being intentional means intentional with your communication, intentional with culture building, intentional with your trust and support and connection. It doesn't happen by happenstance. All right, next slide, please. As today's leaders, we have to unlock the potential of our teams in the hybrid work environment. Us leaders must radically shift from the command and control management style to a more suitable style that includes coaching, empowering, and developing self-driven employees. So on the slide here are some traits hybrid leaders should hone in on. Outcomes and impact focus, not just looking at the hours and activities, but focus on results and driving those, fostering trust in employees' capabilities. Clear, compassionate, and candid communication is paramount. Psychological safety to speak up. And are you viewed as an approachable, open-minded, and inclusive, where employees feel comfortable in sharing ideas, asking questions, and raising concerns without fear of judgment or retaliation? This is especially important in a hybrid setting where physical distance can amplify communication challenges and feelings of isolation. Avoiding micromanagement and over surveillance. No one wants to have someone breathing down their neck. Avoiding this fosters trust, autonomy, and productivity. Over monitoring sends a message that leaders lack confidence in their abilities. which can erode trust and morale. However, allowing autonomy fosters a culture of accountability where employees feel responsible for their outcomes and a mindset shift from compliance to results. Next up, role modeling and vulnerability and authenticity. And lastly, emotional intelligence and empathy. In order to connect findings back to human-centered leadership, see your role as a workplace experience manager, ensuring every employee, whether they are remote or on-site, is well equipped with everything they need to succeed at their job and that they have a positive and professional experience with work. Next slide, please. The more visibility dispersed team members have into the bigger picture, the more motivated and empowered they will feel, even when not co-located. How many of you would agree with this statement on the screen? You could just give a thumbs up. Yep, awesome, great.
Yep,
And so
definitely got
what,
people agreeing with you. Yep.
okay, and what might this look like put into practice? So I'll ask that you come on into the chat, take 60 seconds to jot down some thoughts of what does this look like when you're putting it into practice? Honest communication. Nafi.
Yeah, so more on communication, cohesiveness, sharing progress towards common goals and station goals, sharing information, vulnerability. Leader is transparent, which supports trust. So again, a lot of fostering around transparency, vulnerability, consistency, open communication. Yes, discuss how their work contributes to the organizational goals and sharing. So again, tying back to the mission and making sure that we're open with honest communication and cohesiveness. So yes, a lot of commonalities in the chat.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.
And we have two more. So we have from Dana Armstrong out of Muskogee. It says, if your employee communicates with you while the claims are not moving into their queue for a period of time due to training, large claims taking time to complete, it helps to understand the gaps in the time of the day when reviewing ETR, and trust open communication are key to a hybrid team environment, in her opinion. I share with them the overall station work queue to show them the numbers. So Dana talking about just being transparent when doing that work. And then Jennifer said project reviews or check-ins being on camera during team meetings and or one-on-one allowance for creative collaboration. So yes, so being in that hybrid work environment, making sure that you encourage employees to have their cameras on. I know you guys can't have your cameras on here in seats, but of course it's welcomed. But yeah, so just having that live interaction, even in a virtual or hybrid environment.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, those are great examples. And in your opinion, you are correct. So I appreciate you sharing and everyone else in the chat as well. So I have one example that may resonate with us all that includes the nationwide initiative known as PACT Act, affecting veterans' claims. So team members who might be dispersed across various regional offices, each may be responsible for a different aspect of the process. So whether you're in the regional office or here within central office, there's various responsibilities and roles that have to be executed, such as hiring, IT systems, employee training, outreach to the veterans, processing claims, and then ultimately delivering the benefit. So if leadership ensures that all team members have visibility into the larger picture, sharing the overall goals and timelines, and ultimately delivering the benefit to the veteran, employees will feel more connected to the mission, understanding how their piece of the pie makes up the final treat at the end. So even though they may not be physically co-located, they become more engaged and committed to understanding how their efforts play a critical role in improving veterans' access and benefits in service delivery. All right, next slide, please. Finally, let's talk about how to develop these skills and examples of these skills in practice with experiential learning experiences. Next slide. It is important to note this shift from the legacy mindset to human-centered remote leader does not occur overnight. Again, according to remote work expert and thought leader Will Zapar, the organizations that will thrive are taking an intentional, long-term approach to enabling the freedom, psychological safety, and flexibility that cultivates strong bonds even from afar. Expecting managers to suddenly know how to lead, develop, and support virtual teams is tough to develop overnight. Mastering remote and hybrid leadership requires an ongoing investment in upskilling our new and current managers. This is where experiential learning experiences come into play. It emphasizes learning by doing, reflection, and applying lessons directly to work situations. Some of these experiences may include role model vulnerability, is having leaders practice crucial conversations and openly discuss real work from home challenges, run simulations, use real world scenarios, and role play to apply new skills in a risk free environment, share peer insights, facilitate sessions for leaders to teach each other what's working well for their teams, behavior modeling, identify your most successful remote leaders, closely analyze the specific mindsets and behaviors that set them apart, using them as a benchmark, leverage experts, bring in seasoned remote work veterans to share tangible leadership strategies in live virtual sessions. So, what does success look like for them and how we can duplicate that? And then micro learning, adopting a continuous learning model with bite sized, mobile friendly content delivered over time rather than one off workshops. And then finally, virtual delivery, converting programs to interactive, online, or hybrid formats with small group discussions and hands on activities. So, by continuously developing managers' digital capabilities and emotional intelligence, organizations can maximize the agility, innovation, and performance of distributed teams. Next slide, please. In your chats or just on your own journals or notebooks, consider answering one or both of the following questions, depending on which applies to you. I'm going to ask that you take about 2 minutes to do so, and then we will come back for a discussion. So looking at the questions, what experiential learning experiences are you currently using with your employees, and how has it improved your hybrid work environment culture? And then identifying one experiential learning experience we discussed that you plan to implement with your employees. So I ask that you write your responses in the chat, and Nafi will provide the moderation for that to share. You can stay on the previous slide, Leon, if you can go back, please. Thank you. So as you think about experiential learning, running simulations, behavior modeling, leveraging experts, for those of you that might have those remote teams, what are you doing or what are the best practices? I know when we first started with COVID, everybody had to remember that, hey, you might be business from the waist up. Don't stand up, especially if you have your Hello Kitty pajamas on. Like, what are you doing to sharpen your toolkit? Are you all engaging in various employee engagement activities, having those virtual team meetings, sharing your insights across various teams that are making things happen? Yeah, I don't see. Oh, wait, there we go. I think something.
Yes, so we have a couple comments. So it says weekly stand-ups on camera where they share all their important things that are happening, results, and a chance for them to address me directly in a team environment. Once a month, we have a team building session. So it sounds like some team building and encouraging that camera use. Again, daily team check-ins on camera. We engage in daily morning touch points and weekly team meetings. So keeping that engagement going throughout the week. I have Kelsey, who is a LEAP graduate, recent, trying to be more intentional about checking in with folks rather than just relying on happenstance water cooler interactions. So even if there's not necessarily an agenda, so let's say people are out of the office, still having that standing meeting and not canceling it and letting those people who are there engage in those meetings. Got a couple more. Uh, Jamie says, I have weekly virtual office hours as a place for my team to connect and an opportunity to do simulations of work if needed. Ms. Larson, hi, how's it going out there at OFM? I identified a software training opportunity for my entire team and had them take it at the same time with a facilitator. As a geographically dispersed team, they participated as a group to learn and then could share experiences thereafter with navigating new software that they learned. They also go to office hours within the team. This fosters engagement and fact that they are all in this together. I like that office hours as a team. A lot more comments. So they are engaged. So we have extending one-on-one sessions with every employee as needed or reoccurring for accountability and used as needed by the employee to address me directly. So again, more camera. Looks like it's very common that people are asking folks to come on camera, their employees to be more engaged during their virtual team meetings. They have micro-learning huddles. That's great. That's awesome, Dana. We weekly team huddles, again, more communication to keep that line open. And then also coffee time. That's a creative way to facilitate that engagement. So yeah, a lot of different creative ways out there that they're doing to keep their employees engaged in this hybrid environment. Thank you all for sharing.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nafi. Scrum sessions, great. Awesome. And again, I think the camera is definitely telling, right? Because if you probably have some employees, if they never had to come on camera, they wouldn't, but having that camera, you can obviously sense the nonverbal cues, that might be presenting themselves. And also, I think Mr. Williams, Coltrane Williams, he mentioned the coffee time. Whereas I think that's very important as you think about water cooler chats. If you are in person, you have more opportunity to have that more informal discussions and feedback. So having dedicated and intentional water cooler or coffee chats, that's definitely a way to stay connected with your team, because that is a lost art that is not necessarily put to the forefront in virtual environments. So carving out that one-on-one discussions, I think someone might have mentioned that, Ms. Burford, the one-on-one camera sessions definitely can contribute to the team engagement and making sure that everyone feels valued, seen, and heard, and they're just not coming on camera for official business meetings, but there is that time to have that informal discussion to get to know them. And I think I just seen something pop in the chat. I remind people, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So she said, Jessica out of Cleveland said, I remind people that I'm human too, which is important, that I work from home as well and understand the challenges and the benefits and convenience of the working environment we're in nowadays. So she's definitely relating to her being human and also working from home, just like other individuals, because again, it's just not employees that work from home. Supervisors also work from home. So they also have to make that adjustment in that hybrid workplace. She said it helps with authenticity and building trust when they understand that the only difference between myself and my employees is the title and the duties. That's right, Jessica. That's powerful. That's a good line. My team and I have monthly photo contests where everyone votes on the team photos associated with the monthly topic. Our chat is live most days and work and non-related conversations. So again, that water cooler when you're having those gifts and those emojis that you're dropping in those messages. But I like that line that she said, that the only difference between her and her employees is the title. And that's great. That's good transparency. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that too. And also the monthly photo contest where everyone votes on a team photo associated with the monthly topic. That's a great way to keep your employees engaged. And I know one of the things that my MA does for our weekly staff meetings is we have an employee engagement moment where we dedicate the time to get to know people. And usually it's the most random topics, where, it's like, if you were to retire today, where would you go? What business would you start? And, what's next, and so it's very random, but it definitely brings people out of their shells to be able to see them as more than an analyst or a BSR or whatever you may be at the moment. But it definitely breaks the monotony of the work, and you get to know your employees more. So when you are having those engagements, you're not just reaching out to say, hey, is this task done? But hey, how is your family doing? What's going on? And then I think I see Miss Loper. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, Holly said that her team enjoys when you get to bring your pet to work, which is a virtual team huddle, so they could show and tell their new coworkers. And for those that are on camera shy, it gave them a reason to come on camera willing. So just pushing those employees who might be camera shy, like when you have topics that people can relate to. So I know there's a ton of people who have pets, and being able to show off your pets could be a way of opening up that line of communication virtually. So thanks for sharing, Holly. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing those ideas, and hopefully what your colleagues have shared in the chat, that's something that you will take back to your organizations as well. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is our last reflection question of the day. So please feel free to share in the chat again if you're comfortable. Now that you've learned about how to build a thriving hybrid workplace culture, describe what new way you will engage your employees in the hybrid work environment, and what is one thing that you might have learned today. So I'll ask over what we discussed thus far. Are you looking to be conducting those experiential learning experiences, the legacy manager mindset, or the human-centered approach? What things are coming to mind that you think you will take back to your organizations? And I know we had a thorough chat here, so take a couple minutes.
So Miss Larson, Rachel, she said that she likes the water cooler in coffee talks. Yes, I will say that's something that we use in L&D, because some people just don't like those constant distractions that come through the IM. So you have that one cooler chat that you dedicate all those emojis and fun videos to in that chat. And the coffee talk ideas. Yes, I agree with Dana. The photo contest is a good idea. We are doing a throwback of high school photos this week. Wow. That's a great idea to see back in the day photos of people. A lot of great ideas. I like the photo contest as well. So yeah, I echo the same sentiments about that photo contest. They said Dana said they had a team lunch on Saturday, and for the first time, most of us met in person due to different in-office days.
Oh,
So
wow.
folks
Nice.
getting out of that, taking that different day to telework and actually going in the office. That's amazing. Thanks for
Nice.
sharing. I'm building a Teams group for my team, and I'm going to include a water cooler talk channel today. So Mr. Clements out of my old office, LAX, Michael, so he's going to go ahead and incorporate that water cooler channel. Tracy said, add interactive team building activities and meetings. Yes, I think it goes a long way when you open up those meetings with something such as an activity before you get down to business. And I think you would agree, Miss Tenisha, that sometimes you want to break the ice before you get down to business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are all great ideas. And I will say, just a quick funny, we did a photo contest, and I won't name any names for sure for lack of protecting the innocent. But, some of the more seasoned or wise people on the team, had black and white baby photos. So it was kind of a dead giveaway. So you might want to change everybody's photo to black and white, so it's not going to give away, if you happen to have some seasoned people on your team, just FYI, because that was one of the discriminators that people mentioned, like, wait a minute, I know that this person was born in 2000. I don't know. It's crazy. But all right. Well, next slide, please. Thank you all so very much for sharing. So at this time, we're going to watch a short video clip that stems from the Gallup principal, Louis Efron, who talks about the impact of hybrid work on organizational connection and culture. Good to go, Leon. Thank you.
Enlightened leaders have long acknowledged the importance of having a strong organizational culture to serve as a cornerstone for driving business performance. According to Gallup's research, employees who strongly agree that they feel connected to their organization's culture are 3.7 times as likely to be engaged, 68% less likely to feel burnt out at work, and 55% less likely to be actively or passively seeking new job opportunities. With impact like that on the table, it is no wonder organizations spend thousands of dollars per employee each year on efforts to improve organizational culture. But what may be surprising is that despite these investments, only 2 in 10 employees in the US feel that connection. This challenge with culture isn't new. Year over year, Gallup's data reveal lackluster employee perceptions around their organization's mission, purpose, and value. Critical connection points that give meaning to work and foster a shared sense of ownership for success. Adding a new dimension to this issue in recent years has been the shift to increase hybrid work, which has left leaders wondering whether their dispersed workforces risk becoming even less connected to company culture. Day to day, managers are a critical linchpin in fueling the cascade of culture to the front lines. And while the shift to hybrid work appears to have a positive impact on workplace culture for the US working population overall, hybrid managers are a concerning exception. Hybrid managers feel significantly less connected to organizational culture than hybrid leaders do, and they are less connected than managers with different work location arrangements. And it's no wonder. Hybrid managers face unique challenges that could be leaving them feeling like they are alone on an island, managing dispersed talent, figuring out new ways to communicate with and engage their teams, rethinking productivity and performance measures, and more. Organizations must be mindful of how they are supporting managers' efforts to lead in different work environments. Leaders who are successfully strengthening and sustaining cultures that set their organizations apart are prioritizing their manager population in the following ways. First, they invest in development and upskilling. They recognize that managers must lead and coach differently in a hybrid environment, and they support them in this learning. Second, they intentionally bring their managers together in a peer community. With fewer in-person interactions, hybrid managers may be missing the in-office experiences they once had, from simple yet critical social bonding to joining manager-to-manager forums for sharing best practices. And third, they acknowledge and honor that managers have emotional needs when it comes to their work. While managers are often predominantly focused on ensuring that their teams are okay, they too need to feel cared about and supported. Interestingly, Gallup's recent US panel study shows that hybrid work across employees overall is actually producing positive outcomes regarding organizational culture. A sense of connection to culture is significantly stronger among hybrid employees than those working on-site or.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leon, for that. So this video sums up a lot of what we discussed today. We know hybrid work offers more flexibility to employees, but it can also weaken employee engagement if we are not intentional in managing it effectively. We have to be intentional with creating spaces, both physical and virtual, that offers psychological safety and trust and is results driven. By doing so, VBA can maintain a strong organizational culture and ensure employees feel connected regardless of their work environment. Next slide, please. So as we close today, I invite you to take a look at your notes or just peruse back through the chat. We covered a lot of ground today, and I hope that one or more of these topics resonated with you, whether it was adopting a legacy leader mindset, exploring human-centered leadership, developing effective traits for a hybrid work environment, and lastly, focusing on applying experiential learning experiences. Next slide, please. So these resources, as well as the slides, will be available from today's presentation. So please feel free to refer back for your use. And with that, I will turn the floor over for any questions. Or comments.
I don't see any questions or comments yet. Just a lot of okay, so we got some comments saying excellent training. Thank you, Jennifer. And we'll leave it open for about a minute, and then we will turn it over to closeout. Thank you all for today's great stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. So a lot of echoed sentiments saying great training. So you can go ahead and proceed with closeout. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, we ask that you can roll to the next slide, Leon. There's an evaluation at the end. So again, our L&D division would love to hear some feedback to whether or not this is something that you all would like to see in the future. Point 2.0 version of it. So thank you so very much for any feedback that you can share with the team. I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for your engagement, and have a great rest of your week, whether you are in your Hello Kitty pajamas or business as usual. Thanks. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.